Welcome back to the next section of completing the paper self-energy audit. We're at section 19, the building envelope, and section 19 specifically is on walls and windows. Now, the first question is there adequate wall insulation? This is a judgment. If you feel there's adequate wall insulation, you don't get regular complaints about the level of insulation in the wall and so forth, and thermal comfort issues from your residents, then indicate yes. Otherwise, select no, and we leave you a little opportunity to describe what might be the reason why you feel there's inadequate insulation. Maybe there's complaints from residents, maybe there's excessive heat loss on the northern side of a building or in very cold weather, etc. So just briefly describe it if you so choose to indicate why there's not enough wall insulation. Question 2, are windows single pane? We recognize that you may have multiple buildings and some may have been upgraded. What we want to know is there any building, an entire building, that has single pane windows where there's an opportunity? If so, then indicate yes. So it's part or all of the buildings on your property have single pane. Otherwise, indicate no. Question 3, are the windows treated with a film? This is usually a tinted film. Sometimes it's not too obvious, but usually it is. It's a film that's applied to the windows to reduce solar heat gain and loss on the windows. So you'd indicate yes or no whether you have it. Typically it's no. Adequate caulking and sealing inside and out. Again, this is related to the walls and windows. So you'd indicate whether or not you feel there's adequate caulking and sealing. Quite obviously, of course, if you see cracks or have excessive breeze through on a windy day around windows, you'd indicate no, it wasn't adequate. Otherwise, indicate yes. Section 20 is about doors, the building envelope doors. Are the exterior doors of the buildings insulated? Put yes or no for the answer. Is there weather stripping around the door frames? Again, if you can see minor cracks or get blowing air on a windy day around the doors from the inside, you'd know there was not enough stripping around those doors. And the same question, adequate caulking and sealing inside and out, you'd indicate yes or no whether or not that was actually adequate. Next one is roofing. Is there adequate insulated roofing? Again, a judgment call. You'd indicate yes or no. Do the roofs have a treatment such as cool roof? What we're after is any roofing system that has been post or installed with a very, very light gray or white surface to reflect any excessive heat from the sun. So you'd indicate whether or not that was the case. If you have shake or asphalt shingle, the only time that this could be yes is if it truly was one of those white shingles, not very common, that's out there. Pools. This next section is for the few sites that have pools. If you answer no, go to section 24. Answer yes. We want to know whether it's indoor or outdoor, whether it's year-round operation, whether it's covered at night, and whether it's heated. And if it's heated, what temperature is that pool when it's in the heating mode? Next section is for the few sites that do have hot tubs or jacuzzis. Do you have one? If you answer no, go to section 26. Otherwise, answer the following questions: whether it's indoor or outdoor, whether it's year-round operation, what temperature is that hot tub kept at, and whether or not it is covered at night when it's not in use. And the last question related to that is whether or not it has a dial timer or some type of timer that times out when in use for a period of time. Next question. The steam rooms. There are, for the few cases there may be steam rooms, you'd indicate whether there is. Otherwise, you go to section 28. Does the steam room have a dial controller? And next, section 28, which is on the exercise or recreation rooms. Do you have one? Yes, otherwise go to section 30. Section 29, if you answer yes, does the exercise room have powered exercise equipment? So if you indicate yes, just tell us how many you have and whether or not there are any TVs, the number of TVs you have in the room, And are the TVs controlled with a timer or motion sensor? Next question is on common area appliances, washers and dryers. So this is common area and not the apartment unit from section 30. So washer, dryers and hot water heaters. Does your site have a common area laundry? So even though dwelling units may have their own hookup or washer and dryer, we want to know whether there's an area where the general residential population would go to do laundry. So you answer yes if that's the case, no you go to 32. In the event you do answer yes, you'd indicate whether the washers are front loading and the general age of those washers. Then they want to know the general condition of those washers and whether or not they're electric or gas. Now for the dryers in that common area laundry, they want to know the general age and the actual the condition, so the general condition of those dryers and whether they're electric or gas. What is now for what's serving those washers in that common area, we want to know what the hot water heater with the general age is and what general condition that hot water heater's in, the size in gallons, and what temperature that hot water heater's set at. If it only has a dial and you can't tell, we'd recommend that you'd run the water somewhere for several minutes, be it if it's only connected to the washers or to, if there's a wash sink, then run that sink for a period of time and take that temperature after it's run for 3 to 5 minutes. And does the hot water heater have an insulating blanket? You'd indicate yes or no. And are the pipes running from that tank to the common area washers and or other type of vanity? Are they insulated? We're now at the apartment unit appliances, washer and dryer. Very similar questions related to this. Now we want to know whether all the apartment units or dwelling units have washer and dryers, or some of them, or none of them, regardless of whether or not they are owned by L1SEA. Reason for this is when rebates or incentives come up that are available to residents that own them. Of course, we want to offer them to upgrade their equipment to reduce water consumption and energy consumption, which is the better for all, not just the L1SEA bottom line. So it indicates some, all, or none, and if you answer none, you'd go to section 34. In section 33, similar questions of common area laundry. Are the washers and dryers front loading? If they're owned by the residents, just give it what the majority of them are. So let's assume that they're not front loading, mostly top loading, and the general age, again, and the general condition, and whether they're majority of gas or electric, and then with the dryer, general age, and what the general condition of those dryers are. And in the apartment units, we want to know what the hot water heaters are, if you're not getting central domestic water from a central plant. So if the apartment units do have their own hot water heaters, answer yes, otherwise go to section 36. In section 35, we want to know whether they're gas or electric, general age, general condition, and the typical size of those tanks. What temperature it is, again, if you just have a general dial and you can't tell, run the water for that hot water tank, or the hot water tank, and actually measure it after 3 to 5 minutes of running. What that temperature actually is the actual tank insulated, and are the pipes insulated? We're now at the apartment unit plumbing fixture